Have you ever found yourself obsessing over someone who didn't give you the time of day? Replaying memories and conversations over and over, torturing yourself by overanalyzing every insignificant detail and mixed signal. If this endless mental loop of driving yourself crazy overanalyzing someone sounds brutally familiar, you need to keep watching. We've all been there, stuck in our heads, wasting precious mental energy agonizing over someone who doesn't deserve that power over us. Maybe it's an ex you can't get over, or someone new you're chasing who keeps giving you just enough crumbs to stay hooked. Either way, that constant draining overthinking prevents you from being truly happy and decimates your self-worth. Here's the truth. The person you're obsessing over isn't worth it, and by the end of this guide, you'll realize how to firmly take back control of your mind. So, without further ado, here are 10 powerful mindset shifts to stop that overthinking madness. Fortify your self-worth. At the core, you're craving external validation because you don't feel complete and validated within yourself first. Realize that no person can fill that void. It's an inside job to cultivate self-love and unshakable self-worth. Once you have that solidified sense of self, the highs and lows of whether someone reciprocates interest loses much of its emotional potency. You'll no longer be as fazed or destabilized by their moods or treatment of you. Think about it. People with sky-high self-esteem and ironclad inner confidence never obsess like this. They don't lose sleep when someone shuts them out or seems disinterested because they know their value is innate and untethered from others' approval. If you're routinely this rattled over one person's opinions and actions, it's a blaring sign you have inner work to do on reinforcing your self-esteem. Journal about all the qualities you're legitimately proud of that have nothing to do with romantic partners. Recite affirmations about self-love and start filtering out any toxic voices in your life that reinforce neediness for validation. Nobody is out of your league. You keep imbuing this person with outrageous significance because you unconsciously view them as unattainable or out of your league. So you chase them, only to suffer depressing lows when they don't reciprocate or seem to lose interest. This vicious cycle will persist until you realize nobody is inherently out of your league based on looks or superficial qualities. We're all flawed human beings, worthy of the same love and belonging. Someone's appearance or status doesn't automatically make them superior or more valuable. The people you likely put on this pedestal are likely just as insecure, fragile, and starved for validation as you are deep down. Their projected exterior of supreme confidence and self-assuredness is precisely that, an artificial projection. So stop rationalizing this skewed self-perception. Stop viewing them as a VIP figured too cool or entitled to grace you with their affection. With a more realistic equanimous perspective, their wishy-washy interest will hurt less because you'll know they're just as human and dispensable as anyone else. Cultivate an abundance mentality. Another key to ending this mental torture is realizing how much of an ego-driven power play the chase mindset represents. Whether you're pining over a former flame or trying fruitlessly to win over someone you've pedestalized, your self-worth has become intertwined with their validation and reciprocation of interest. This is deeply unhealthy, giving someone else profound control over your sense of self and emotional well-being. The antidote: cultivate an abundance mindset where you decouple your self-esteem from external sources. You alone determine your worth, so stop treating this pursuit as some zero-sum ego game where acquiring this person's validation somehow makes you more valuable. Because if you internalize that belief deep down, you'll inevitably place them on an unhealthy pedestal and torture yourself with overthinking. True confidence stems from an abundance mentality of knowing you're good enough and complete without this person's blessing. Recognize what's uncontrollable. At some level, this excessive rumination stems from a desire to assert control over an uncontrollable situation. By overanalyzing every signal, text and subtext, you're trying to convince yourself you have more influence and foresight into where this goes. The truth? No amount of mental chess can control whether someone reciprocates your interest or sustains theirs. That's an inescapable reality nobody can exert control over. The harsh but ultimately liberating realization is that someone's romantic attraction or lack thereof has little to do with your objective worthiness as a person and everything to do with highly subjective factors outside your jurisdiction. So save yourself the anguish and mental depletion of trying to rationalize away their indifference or unwillingness to reciprocate. Once you accept that lack of control, you'll regain decisive clarity over what you can control, how you react, and how much mental rent you give this person. They have flaws too. Let's be real. Those you're obsessing over are likely sporting some unattractive personality flaws and shortcomings themselves. But when consumed by this overthinker's spiral, you completely lose sight of that and inflate them into an idealized fantasy figure devoid of authentic humanity. This is beyond unhealthy, as it reinforces the grandiose pedestal you're vainly trying to remove yourself from. So do yourself a favor, make a brutally honest list documenting all of their overt flaws and unattractive qualities. Do they prioritize superficial status signaling? Maybe they're charmingly narcissistic or constantly jaded and cynical. Perhaps they pathologically avoid authenticity and vulnerability? Rationally assessing and tallying their very real deficiencies works wonders at rehumanizing them off that pedestal. After all, it's much harder to lionize and pine over someone you've analyzed as fundamentally flawed and potentially emotionally unavailable. You have unlimited options. The excessive rumination flourishes on the self-limiting belief that this is your one soulmate or best possible romantic option. Shed those insecurity blinders. Even if this person did reciprocate interest, does that automatically make them your ideal life partner? Of course not. There's no such thing as a perfect soulmate because we all enter relationships carrying inevitable flaws, shortcomings, and incompatibilities. Pedestaling this person as your indispensable one and only is not only misguided, it represents a major attachment issue. Free yourself by visualizing all the unlimited possibilities and avenues for romance and connection that don't involve this person. Think of qualities you'd prioritize in an ideal partner. Maybe intelligence, patience, or kindness reign supreme. Does this person even embody many of those qualities? More realistically, they probably only check a few superficial or physical boxes while lacking many deeper compatibility factors. Expand your mindset to all the options and soulmate potentials this life has to offer. Overdependence and obsession never stem from a present, aware state, only from a place of ego-driven scarcity. Disentangle biology from fantasy. Speaking of ego and superficial desire, much of this overthinking stems from primitive drives and biological programming. You're not obsessing over their emotional intelligence or charitable nature. It's about baser wants, looks, status, physical intimacy. Recognize that you're acting on primal instincts inflamed by societal conditioning around idealized romantic tropes, not cultivating a profound intimacy. Does that make the longing any less acute? Not necessarily, but cultivating this perspective helps counteract the desperation stemming from overthinking. It's about deprogramming those biological knee-jerk reactions that foster attachment and idealization over mere sexual charges and fleeting chemical burns. Easier said than done, sure. Stop ruminating on the past. A major fuel for this obsessive overthinking is the tendency to relentlessly dwell on past moments and what-if scenarios with this person. Perhaps you constantly replay your last interaction, agonizing over what you could have said or done differently. Maybe you torture yourself by wallowing in regrets over how things deteriorated. This mental time travel keeps you stuck in the past rather than being mindfully present. It's a dangerous spiral that inflates the significance of someone who should remain in your rearview mirror. Instead of getting hooked on revisionist fantasies about how it could have ideally played out, you need to radically accept the reality of what transpired. The best way to stop obsessive rumination is to practice present moment awareness. Whenever you notice yourself slipping into these mental loops, use deep breaths or noting physical sensations to bring your attention back to the tangible here and now. Journaling or recording persisting thoughts also helps process them objectively rather than consuming your mind. Set firm boundaries. Part of what perpetuates this overthinking is leaving the door cracked open to this person's energy and reminders about them. As long as you subject yourself to potential updates or passive presence in your channels, they maintain a foothold to wriggle back into your psyche and hook you in again. Steadfastly enforcing boundaries is critical. Start by removing them from your social media feeds so you don't inadvertently idolize them or consume painful triggers. Delete their number and any backed up messages to eliminate easy access points. You may even need to block them fully or ask friends not to bring them up. While it feels extreme initially, creating deliberate breaks in access and proximity is invaluable. Next, set firm boundaries around any romanticized reframes or excuses for why it fizzled. When those thoughts arise, immediately reaffirm this person was incapable of sustained intimacy you deserve. The more you seal access points and refuse mental rental space to their memories, the quicker you reclaim power. Feel your life with purpose. Ultimately, the antidote is discovering a passionate life purpose that feels bigger than any single romantic fixation. When you lavishly invest time and energy into enriching missions and pursuits, there's simply less bandwidth to obsess over someone unworthy. Maybe this means finally acting on a creative project or business idea you've been putting off. Perhaps it's prioritizing self-actualization through education or a meaningful spiritual path. It could even be an athletic goal like training for a marathon. The activity itself matters less than cultivating an all-consuming sense of drive that extends beyond just dating. When you have compelling purposes to pour your life force into, the emotional weight you ascribe to any single person diminishes. Their memory no longer hijacks your focus because you're energetically invested in realizing grander visions. From that empowered place of purpose, you'll wonder why you ever wasted so much time overthinking about someone so insignificant. If you have made it this far, let us know what you think in the comment section below. For more interesting topics, make sure you watch the recommended video that you see on the screen right now. Thanks for watching.